right, call the meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Williamsport City Council meeting. It is Thursday, September 15th, 7 p.m. We're in Trade and Transit 2. Please rise for the invocation, followed by the flags. Lord, your word says that you will always guide us. Let us lean on you with all our hearts instead of relying on our own imperfect understanding. Give us clear guidance in our service and the work that lies before us. Help us to follow your ways as you lead us in service in our community and into fruitfulness and joy. As we submit ourselves to you, we know that you will direct our paths and that we have confidence that your direction is always the best way to go. In your name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, approval of City Council meeting minutes from September 1st, 2022. Is there a motion and a second? Second. Motion and a second. Any comments or questions related to the minutes? Please see none. Mrs. Frank, have a motion, please.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Matthews.
Yes.
Mr. Blizzy.
Yes.
Mr. Biden.
Yes.
Ms. Mary. Yes. Mr. Yoder.
Yes.
Oh, Mrs. Katz.
yes,
Yes, 7-0. Item 4, limited to fully had a request tonight. We're going to jump to. We're going to jump to item 8. I think we have a guest in the audience this evening in case they don't want to. So see the rest here. Item 8 is right.
Resolution between the Williamsport Bureau of Fire and the County Amendment Way for Project Life Saver.
Is there a motion and a second? Second. Motion and a second. Chief Owens. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, President Yoder, members of council. Tonight before you is a resolution to enter into an agreement with the Lake County United Way and the Williamsport Bureau of Fire with the Project Life Saver. For about 12 years now, I believe it is, we've been working with Hope Enterprises regarding Project Life Saver. Hope is no longer running the program. They are passing the torch on to the County United Way. So in that, there's a new memorandum of agreement, I believe it's called, or it might be a memorandum of understanding that we need to sign to enter into the agreement with the County United. It's real basic. I mean, we've been involved with Project Life Saver in about 12 years. It's a great program for autistic children. I shouldn't say children because there's even some older people as well as older people with connections. I have with me Ron Crick from the Lake County United Way. If you have any questions for others.
Thank you both. This was reviewed in public safety.
It was, Chief Owens, if you don't mind, just briefly, for those who might not know, Project Life Saver is, just explain how it works.
Sure. So Project Life Saver is a radio frequency that it's a transmitter that is attached to the client's wrist or ankle, depending on comfort. And if they wander off, they get lost. We have devices, receivers that are able to pinpoint which direction they are, and depending on the signal that we receive, the strength of the signal, we can tell, roughly how close we are moving towards that person to locate. In Williamsport proper, it has been, I think, 3 times we've located individuals with the receivers. But it's radio transmitter. Every month we go out they call us, the client or the caregiver for the client calls us to schedule us to come out, or they come to the firehouse. And we replace the van in the back. The van is something that's made of some pretty strong materials. They're not able to remove it. But if you get a child who's playing with scissors or something, they can get it off sometimes. So we also have leather bands that they're able to use. It has some wire banding inside, so it makes it difficult for them. It takes a special tool to get
Great, thank you. Yeah, this was review policy at the, we had a really good discussion about the program itself. As the chief said, it was just now for quite some time, run by Hope Enterprises. So, Councilwoman Katz, I will refer to you first if you have any comments or questions. Ron Frick from the United Way is here, fine, just in case you don't have your camera.
Okay.
Turn on.
The sound is kind of soft, so I hope I'm not repeating myself. Chief, I think you said there's about 12 or 15 people that are in this program right now.
Yes.
And there is a very minimal fee to have this, I'm going to say bracelet.
So, hi, Councilman Katz, Ron Frick here. There is actually no fee for the client. The cost of the technology, the bands, the batteries, all of that has been borne by grant funding, not only to Hope Enterprises through All One Foundation through June, but that is going to carry forward to the United Way, and we believe that we'll have the opportunity to continue to raise funds. So the cost of the equipment, the cost of the band is really free.
I'm happy to hear that because in a way, I know all of this is expensive and I felt bad because sometimes these families that need this kind of help don't also have the finances. So I think this is, a wonderful program. I'm happy the United Way is taking over with this. It's been, as the chief explained to us, how many times it does get used and how important this program is to the safety of our citizens and families that have the need for this. So we thank you very much. I don't think I have any other questions, Chief, other than, did you state how many cities are involved in this in the county?
I did not, but there is involved with Project Lifesaver in Lycoming County are the Williamsport Bureau of Fire, South Williamsport Fire Department, Loyalstock Fire Department, and Ty Down Valley Regional Police Department.
So it covers a large area. It would be nice if other communities got involved. It really
Right.
would, and hopefully they, will see the need for this program, since obviously there really isn't a charge at all. It's such a help to the community and, like I said, to our citizens. So other than that, thank you both.
So if I may add there, we agreed to, until we get more agencies involved, we agreed to go to throughout the county so that it can be a countywide system. We have not had an opportunity where it would cost anything to the Williamsport Bureau of Fire. When Hope Enterprise was in charge of it, if in the event that we did have to call overtime and backfill for the two individuals that went to do the search, Hope Enterprises, through the grants that Lon spoke of, would cover that expense. But there will be no cost to the city or the taxpayers.
And I don't have any further questions. I'll open up the floor to any other members of council that want to weigh in. So,
Other comments or questions from other members of council? All right, hearing seen none, Mrs. Frankel, motion please.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy. Yes. Mrs. Katz,
Yes,
Mr. Yoder,
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you both. Thank you very much for being here and working with us on this. All right, we'll move back up to item 5. We have a quarterly report and some updates from Delta Development. I'll turn it over to Ms. Warner.
Good evening, President Yoder, Vice President Katz, members of the Council Administration. We do have representatives from Delta here this evening. We moved out the presentation on the council. It's also on the screen. We've been working with Delta for a while now. We're extremely fortunate. We've had a number of grants come in. We're going to speak obviously more to that. And we also have grants out there that we're looking forward to hopefully receiving those awards as well. We just recently were notified last week that we did receive the DCNR grant for our parks, rec, and open spaces to update our comp plan. That's $70,000, and that's going to then open us up for additional grant funding from DCNR. Some of the grants require that comp plan to be updated on its algorithm. So now that we update that, that's going to open up additional funding opportunities for us, particularly around green infrastructure too. So looking forward to updating that, getting that from the public, administration, council, getting that plan updated. At this point, I'll turn it over to Delta to let them give their quarterly update. Thanks.
Good evening. Nice to be here. So we'll start out with the public funding. I have this in front of you. Good thing I didn't bring this. I never be able to read that. So last time when I was here, we were waiting for the green light bill to be announced. The city was successful in securing $326,796 for the traffic signals for East 4th Street and Mulberry Street. As the mayor mentioned, the DCNR awards were made last week. We have pending applications right now, the CFA Greenways Trails and Recreation Program. We've submitted a grant for the Mason Street connector, so they've combined both of those phases into two phases. Those are on the CFA board meeting for next Tuesday. So we should know next Tuesday if that is going to be funded. We have a pretty good feeling that it will be funded. The CFA local share account, we submitted that in the winter and they've held that off. We do hear that it's supposed to be on the October board meeting. We're hoping for earlier versus November after the elections. So we'll keep you informed. Once it hits the agenda, we'll let the administration know that it's on for review. We keep in touch though with Senator Young and Representative Newland's office to make sure that they're continuing to reach out to leadership to position the projects. Future opportunities. DCNR opened a new round, fall round. This is the first time they've ever done that. With substantial dollars. It's ARPA dollars coming in for recreation. They anticipate that they'll make awards by December this year. So we are going to start under the Land Conservation and Watershed Protection Project to construct 4 DMPs within the city to assist with the MS4 requirements. We felt that because we were just awarded the $70,000, the city was just awarded the $70,000, we're starting a master plan to submit anything for recreation, probably wouldn't become a priority for DCNR because they're waiting for the master plan. We feel that this is not only a good priority for the city, but also a project that will be embraced by DCNR. Our next step will be to hold a conference call with West Beringer, which is the DCNR rep for this region, and talk through this project and make sure that it is competitive and be able to compete with other projects. So that's due October 27th. The next one is PCCD. This was just recently announced. Again, this is ARPA dollars coming through PCCD for the law enforcement program. There are allocations within the NOFO. With the city can apply for up to 5 million. Doesn't necessarily mean that you could get 5 million. The nice part about this is there's no match required. It can cover infrastructure needs, personnel needs, non-uniform needs, records management systems, those types of categories. The goal with this program is to reduce violence and to improve clearance rates. So with everything that is included, whatever category and project component, you have to justify that this project will reduce violence. So we'll be working with the city in order to develop a competitive application based on the project needs and the city needs and meeting those two priorities of violence and improving clearance rates. So that's the update as far as funding. Any questions? And this will get us through to the end of this year, and then we'll start again for next year as far as any funding that becomes available.
Just a couple of questions, Teresa. The EMPs that we're applying for the following. What extent does it satisfy our obligations into stormwater video forest? All of all. I was hoping you'd say that. Right. And then what are clearance rates?
That's, if you have a violation or theft or murder rate that you solve, right? Is that right? I know enough to be dangerous, but yeah, that's that's what they want. Whatever you apply for within the application, you have to make sure that it will, in fact,
So it will
impact
help
both
solve
of them.
existing crimes or help.
Right.
Yeah, this sounds like things I mentioned. Maybe this is the whole- what we do with the application. That's all.
Mr. Mackey?
Could you expand on non-uniform needs for that police grant? What exactly would that?
I mean, there's some of the, and again, it would depend on what the city is looking for in that regard. Some of the police departments are applying for translators because they, are working with some of the municipalities in Center County, very diverse communities, language barriers, and working not only for first responders with mental health issues, but also some of the translators. So it would be in that category. Again, I think your police department is going to know best what programs to put in place in order to reduce the violence and improve your clearance rates. Great, thank you.
Mr. Woolsey?
Thank you. Just real quickly, $5 million potentially for the PCCD, is that competing with the entire state?
They have 135 million that's available. And what PCCD has done is, some municipalities, their max that they can apply for is $1 million. With the city, the max you can apply for is $5 million. They'll look at each of your requests and what you're requesting. And you've got to tie it back into those two priorities. If you make the case that yes, that we bring in, a sophisticated records management system, if you didn't have that. And this is how it would impact those two priorities, then your, application is competitive. So the key is always tying it back to those two criteria.
Thank
you.
Any other comments or questions related to the fund subjects?
So last time I was here, so we were doing a tourism study, and the idea was thrown out about looking at your industry as well. So I have Katie Hall with me today, to give some of her background. Katie's working on the tourism study, but she's also started to pull some of your industry trends. And I think you'll find that what she has pulled together is pretty interesting. So I'll turn the rest over to Katie now.
Thank you, members of the council, for having me here tonight. So yeah, like Teresa said, my name is Katie Hall. I'm an associate at Delta Development Group. I started about a year ago, but prior to that, I worked for the Independent Fiscal Office in Pennsylvania for the General Assembly. There I did economic development analysis and corporate income tax forecasting. So I looked at a lot of these economic data. And as part of the request from council, we pulled some of that data together. So in this presentation tonight, there's a lot of data. I'm not going to go through everything, but if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. But I'll give you kind of a brief overview of what we pulled as part of our analysis of industry and tourism in Williamsport. So a brief overview of the presentation. We'll start out with some key regional indicators, move on to an MSA comparison of other third-class cities that might be similar to Williamsport. Then we'll look at city level data. We just pulled information for the 17701, 17703, and 17705 zip codes. So we'll look at some of the industries that are in the city and some competitive advantages that the city might have. And then we'll tie that into the recent Pennsylvania Tourism Trends Report and close out on some information we've gotten from the business survey and then our next steps. So this is a summary slide that I'll talk about on this next table. So you can see from the table, the city of Williamsport hosts 26,100 jobs, which is about 15% of employment in Montgomery County. And over the last 5 years, Montgomery County has lost population and jobs with faster growth than Pennsylvania or the United States. But it continues to be an affordable city with the current average earnings lower than the Pennsylvania United States average, but by about 85% of the average. Looking at the comparable MSAs, we pulled next slide. We pulled some examples. We used Lancaster, we used Altoona, Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton MSAs, and compared it to the Williamsport MSA. And in this case, the Williamsport MSA, the Metro Statistical Area, is about the same size as the county. So this just gives another look at how Williamsport stacks against comparable regions. And you can see that the areas like Lancaster and Allentown, areas in the south and east of the state, they're experiencing job growth and population growth. And that's a trend that's being seen across Pennsylvania. And then towns in the north and west of the state are losing population and jobs. Here, Williamsport has continued to have a higher level of unemployment that, over the past 5 years than these municipalities, but they also enjoy a pretty substantial average earnings rate, similar to Lancaster or even Allentown. And just a note here on the industries, you can see that all of the MSAs have these same top 3 industries: healthcare and social assistance, manufacturing, and retail trade. So the kind of mix is pretty similar. So now look at the city level data, and this is where we can kind of unpack a little bit more about the industry in Williamsport. Just looking here, this first chart kind of lists the top industries by employment, and Williamsport has 29.5% of their employment is in the healthcare or the social assistance sector. So that means about 1 in every 3 jobs is in that industry. And it breaks down that hospitals and ambulatory healthcare services, which are outpatient care centers and doctors' offices, those are the top 2 employers in the city. And that's followed by food services and drinking places. And each of those industries employs around 2,000 people. This next slide carries some interesting data because it shows these larger industries, but then it compares it to a feature called location quotient. And this statistic pulls the concentration of an industry compared to the national average. So if a location quotient of 1 means that the industry is the same in the city as it is across the United States in concentration. When you get a location quotient above 1, it means that there might be specific concentration of an industry or an industry cluster, giving Williamsport a competitive edge. So all of these on this chart are industries with location quotients greater than 1. And I think what is interesting to pull out here is that there is a high concentration of healthcare and social assistance employment. It also has a higher location quotient. But on the other side of the graph are the areas that have very high location quotients, but not as much of total employment. And those are some specialized manufacturing industries, such as primary metal manufacturing, transportation equipment manufacturing, computer and electronic manufacturing. And while these don't make up as large of a share of total employment, they're each below about 2%. They're concentrated in Williamsport at levels 2 and 3 times the national average. So this next table unpacks that same chart. It's a lot of the same industries, but it just lists it and ranks it by average earnings per job. So you can see these same high LQ industries where there's a lot of concentration. I think what's worth noting here is that these specialized manufacturing industries, you can see that it had some negative job change from 2016. So there's employment loss in those areas in the past 5 years. This slide looks at the flip side of the coin, the industries that have lower than 1 LQ, which are industries that are not as concentrated as in Williamsport as they are across the rest of the nation. But this graph also shows these industries that have had growth in the past 5 years. So I wanted to highlight this slide because I think it shows an area for possible growth or advantage. Industries that might not be as concentrated in Williamsport now, but are experiencing growth. Some that I'll highlight are the rental and real estate industries, and also the amusement, gambling, and recreation industries. And you can see that when we kind of look at the tourism data, you also see that there's like less tourism spending in the recreation industry, and the industry is smaller than the national average. Just to wrap up on this industry cluster discussion, I'm just going to turn back to the manufacturing industry cluster. Here's a map of kind of the locations of the manufacturing type industries within the city of Williamsport. And their bubbles equal the employment size. So I just wanted to highlight the unique opportunity that Williamsport has with manufacturing, specialized manufacturing, especially with the location of Pennsylvania College of Technology, and then Lycoming College, and that skilled labor force to kind of recruit and retain employees. I think this ties into tourism related industries as well, because it helps kind of draw and retain high skilled workers to an area that they'll have places they want to go after work, restaurants and recreation. So now moving on to the tourism trends in Lycoming County. These next two slides, use data from Pennsylvania's Department of Community and Economic Development's annual impact of travel and tourism report. It only looks at data at the county level, so we're kind of zooming back out to Lycoming County. And Lycoming County represents 22% of total tourism spending in the PA Wilds region, so a lot of total tourism spending. This maps the trends in tourism spending over the past decade. And you can see that between 2009 and 2019, in Lycoming County, tourism spending grew at averaging over 3.9%, a little slower than the statewide average of 4.3%. But in 2019, Lycoming County, between 2017 and 2019, experienced strong growth where they returned to tourism spending levels that were at the 2013 position. And that was before the COVID-19 pandemic, and you can see that large drop off in tourism spending for 2020. So in 2019, the last typical year of tourism in Montgomery County, direct tourism spending equaled $409 million, which the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development estimates that it supported 4,700 jobs, approximately 8% of countywide employment, supported 167 million in labor income, 78 million in state and local income taxes. And notably here, tourists spend similarly to the way that they do across the entire state of Pennsylvania. But the areas where they didn't spend as much was recreation, spending 15% of tourism spending on recreation compared to 17.5% statewide. But they did spend more on food and beverages, so spending about 24.6% compared to 21% statewide. So then this kind of brings us to our business survey. So the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development, they give great data on tourism at the county level, and they try to estimate the economic impact of that tourism. But we try to get a better sense of the impact of tourism and the connection to the regional economy at the city level. So the survey that we are administering, it went live in August 2022. We're still working, we haven't had a very high response rate, but we're still working on follow-ups for that. But it does ask questions of, quantitative questions such as the number of employees or the percent of revenue attributable to tourism. But it also asks businesses qualitative questions like what they believe are drawing people to the city, what amenities might be missing, and then what are opportunities for growth or the ways that the city can better support tourism related businesses. So I'm going to share some early feedback. So here, I can't share much data from the survey just because we don't have enough to say what's representative, but we can share some early themes or kind of the open-ended responses that we received. So some open-ended responses highlight leveraging historical charm by marrying the historical charm of Williamsport with 21st century interests. And I think examples of this could be like the Peter Gerdig House, the City Hall Grand Hotel, or the Brandon Park Band Shell Summer Concert Series. More outdoor recreation and programming offerings, make the Riverwalk more accessible, increase bike pedestrian infrastructure, strike a balance between sports culture and arts culture, more shopping, assist businesses with recruitment, retention of high quality employees, and work with landlords to address vacant properties in downtown Williamsport. So those are just a few of the findings that have come out of the survey. Just some qualitative feedback, but we're hoping to get some more responses so we can get some harder data out of the survey. So that's the presentation. And then I'm open for any questions if you'd like. Thank you.
Real quick, this is great. There's a lot of interesting information in here. I jotted down a couple. Could you email this to us as well?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Please.
Absolutely.
If you send it over to the city clerk, you forward it to us, or
Okay.
either way, that would be great. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Mr. Pelosi, Mr. Slider.
Thank you. You said a lot of great information here. While you were speaking, I could jot down a couple of things. The one thing I'm curious to know is the high LQ industry growth opportunities. That's why I noticed some more industries here. We're looking at percentage change from 2016 and now our computer and electronic product manufacturing also approximately 34%.
I have to pay close attention. I can't make it any louder. It's as loud as it can get.
Bonnie, you don't want to mute yourself, we can hear you.
Primary metal manufacturing, we lost 28%. Food manufacturing lost 25%. Just those top three that broke down to me. Were you able to, in your research, looking through the data, were you able to also see where that industry went to or why we lost that industry?
You know, in the research that we did for this presentation, I was taking a look at that. But that's something I could follow up on if you're interested. You know, it's at the small level, it's difficult to track this data because at this level, it gets down to a company moving or you know, and they can't disclose that information. But I can see if there's any additional information available.
Yeah, if you can, I would really appreciate it. I mean, for us to understand why we're losing industry here in the area, I think would certainly be helpful. So we can try to promote more growth and try to get that back.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Mr. Byer, you had a couple questions.
I was curious, when you look at the population of Williamsport on the MSA comparison to the Class City page at 114,000, where is that number coming from? Because that is extremely high for our populations.
Yeah, so this is the metro statistical area level. So in this case, it kind of zooms back out to the county population. It pulls in all of like Montgomery County's population for the MSA.
No, I think at times Clinton County's included also.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that
would
seems
make
higher.
a lot of sense.
That might be why.
It's all the populated areas in that MSA.
It's literally like Clinton County.
All right,
Yeah.
so that's quite.
Yes, that's right. It
So it
is.
might be just like Clinton, it's like going at least 100,000.
Yeah, so
Probably.
it's not really a apples to apples. It's not exactly the county borders, but it does pull in a lot of the surrounding region. And then the reason I pulled this information is because you're able to get a little bit more data. You're able to pull the unemployment rate, where you can't do that at the city level.
It's feeling.
When you say the acronyms are adjusted for cost of living, what refers to the section?
Yes, that's a good question. So the data service we use is MC, and they have, I believe it's sourced in here. It's the Council for Community and Economic Research. They develop a cost of living index for every city. And so what that does is it just adjusts the earnings for the cost of living. So Williamsport has like a lower cost of living than example, Allentown, so it adjusts the earnings for that.
Okay, so essentially you're showing higher average need than for half. Is that what you're for?
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Got it.
But on a competitive scale,
But nonetheless,
We're still lagging. compared to, yeah.
That's
Exactly.
kind of what I was curious about. So theoretically, the gap would be broader. Just in terms of dollars.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
That's what I thought I was understanding, but I wasn't double check the issue.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Second question for you, we talked about recreation. Recreation spending. What recreation are people spending money on?
And are you talking about this slide? Or-
Yeah, it's just kind of a general question. When I think of recreation area, I mean, it's parts of the funding, I think, so I'm curious to know what counts as like a form of recreation is something that we.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And in these type of analyses, I believe they're using anything that would count as a recreation code. So it would be like sports, amusement parks, outdoor recreation programming, if you're paying for like a tour or something. But you are right that it won't be picking up someone getting on their bike for free and traveling on a trail. That's when you would show up in like food and beverage if they stop for lunch or something like that. So that's not picking up like free.
I figured that, I was just kind of, that's not, for some reason, the other stuff isn't necessarily food, my definition of recreation, which is why I'm saying.
Right.
I guess the follow up that question, which don't necessarily to answer now, beginning is what forms of recreation are people spending money on elsewhere that don't exist here?
Okay.
You know, because I'm assuming that's part of it. People may be spending less on recreation, but more than likely the actual issue is that there are things that we don't offer here that are offered. And we're making those services successful.
That's a great point, and that is something we're trying to get out in the, tourism survey. So hopefully we'll get a little more insight on what people are seeing. This is the question we're trying to get at with the, what amenities is the city of Williamsport missing, but, we'll see.
Then to that point, who are you reaching out to with the business and tourism study?
So right now, we have, we're using the Chamber of Commerce's directory, and we're primarily reaching out to, tourism related industries. Basically these sectors, lodging, food and beverage, retail, recreation and transportation. And we're using the Chamber's, directory right now and following up directly, through email addresses.
That's all of the survey sectors. Okay.
It's actually specifically within the city of Williamsport right now, are the businesses that we're reaching out to.
It might be useful to these problems. Some of these industries. Anyway.
Great, thank you.
So Vince kind of stole one of my questions, which is okay. That stuck out to me, the manufacturing jobs. I'm kind of curious, and I don't know if you're even able to pull this data, how much of it was because of the pandemic? How much of it was because of like the trends that you're seeing just across manufacturing, automation, the shift in roles? I mean, it's creating a net reduction in jobs, not to the extent that I think most people think, but
Right.
And then how many of them left? That number really stuck out. But I thought it was interesting though too, because we still have a pretty unique manufacturing cluster,
Yeah.
even with that exodus of jobs or changing that reduction in jobs. And the question that sticks in my mind, at least with that cluster, is like, how do we capitalize on that?
Yeah.
How do we capitalize on that? How do we capitalize on these unique industries that we have or the opportunities, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that cities that have seen success in doing that are usually attaching themselves to a university or a college. So I think that you have a great opportunity in college and like coding college, apprenticeship programs, and then also just the improvements that the city's making to make a city that you want to live in and raise a family in. So I think those are two ideas. It's definitely a difficult question.
So, and the other thing that just stuck out to me, and so this is all really great information. I think this gives us kind of a map of where we're at.
Yeah.
I think a good next step would be, well, how do we take this and how do we put it into some kind of a, even if it's a high level action plan, how do we retain some of these industries? How do we grow them, right? And we've talked for a couple of years about some kind of economic development strategy in the city. This would be a great start to one for sure.
Well, the other thing we could do is reach out to these industries to get a sense from them, just like we're doing for the industries. You know, the DCD has a rep survey where it's early intervention where there are a number of questions that we could ask regarding their future, what's some of their impediments, any of their goals, if they could expand, what do they need to expand, if they've had a reduction in employment, is it because of, you know, pandemic, or are they downsizing, or, and for those that have maintained their employment, what makes them successful? And the other thing, you know, once you get to the point of what you know they're looking for and their needs, and you've got the space and you know where you want them, you can attend trade shows. You know, you can take your city on the road and say, this is what we have available. Now, some of those cities probably also offer some incentives to get early, maybe small businesses that will then continue to grow. But I think we could put together, you know, maybe some implementation steps on what you might think about in order to grow that. But I think our next step is really reaching out to some of those industries to get a better sense versus just the data on what's really going on. The other thing that, you know, we use an EMC tool, those are updated quarterly, yeah, so we can look at next quarter too, to see if there's any change as well. But I think reaching out to the industries and get a better sense of what's going on makes sense.
Yeah, I for one would be interested to see that. Again, you start thinking of, okay, we have a baseline of kind of where we're at, what do we need to get from here to there? And then, we can even look at putting a plan together based on that of how do we accomplish it? We know what we need, where do we put it? How do we get there? So this is great. This is really great. Any other comments or questions from other members? This feeling?
I noticed obviously with the offset the increases in some of the manufacturing sectors, we had massive increases in contract numbers in the city. Or is that countywide? Is that in the larger?
The graph sites, I'll go back. This is all city level data. It's chapter 3, basis all city level.
Okay. To what extent is that mirrored national? To what extent are most municipalities seeing massive increases in healthcare jobs versus manufacturing jobs?
That's a really good question. And I think you could see that from that MSA comparison that a lot of MSAs are top industries, healthcare and social assistance. Let me pull it here.
I guess what I'm not sure about is to what extent that's the case.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania versus to what extent that's just a national trend.
But we are able to parse out that data in this tool. There's they have a national growth rate and then they have a competitive growth rate. And from what I remember seeing, I didn't pull it into the presentation, but the competitive growth rate for Williamsport is positive with these industries, indicating that there's something more than what's going on at the national level. But I agree with you that there is just national growth in that industry.
Got it. So we're above average, but not 41%.
Right, right.
Okay.
Well, yeah, that is the growth, but it's not competitive growth. Yeah, exactly.
In the discussion about businesses here or key businesses or tourism, all those areas, is there any are there any parts of this that connect with air travel? We don't have those things in the area anymore. Is that a component that affects this? Anybody express that?
For the, yeah, reaching out to those industries would be key as far as how that has impacted their business. And I think, we start with those manufacturing industries, look at some of the other job losses and again, look at those industries to see what's going on in those industries on the city level. And I think, you can have your quantitative data, but I think the qualitative really is a good offset to that because you get the real knowledge of what's going on. We can analyze the data, we can make some assumptions and say, well, this happened, we may be totally case. I think having some of those conversations with industry that's currently in Williamsport is going to be important. And that could be one of the questions. How is that impacting their business?
Any other comments or questions? This was great. I look forward to seeing kind of the next step here. Thank you for what you did here, and thanks for being here first. It's great to see you both. And your next presentation. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, we go on to item 6. This is Frank.
An ordinance and ARPA transfer ordinance in final reading.
Is there a motion and a second?
Second.
Motion and a second.
Tonight we are going on the final revisions to the ARPA ordinance budget, so that we can have the project for Old City funded for what they had asked for. last meeting, we had some discussions about where the money was going to be coming from within that budget. Specifically, the money is coming out of recreation. We all agree that it's not the proper use of those dollars. So that's what that.
Certainly. Certainly. So by my math, there's about $265,000 that need to be put back into the recreation future projects reserve and then pull from somewhere else for that project. But the one is my own, but I don't know if anybody has any initial thoughts.
My initial thought for that would be to take it out of the redevelopment authority.
Okay.
And use that money.
It's kind of where mine was at also, so.
That is redevelopment in a way.
I have
Like a third.
Yep. Yep, yeah, I agree, completely agree. So, yeah, that makes sense to me, and then same token. We need to then take from the economic development, city development project, the same number, put that back into recreation future project reserve, so just keep making the motions.
So I will make a motion that we take the $265,000 out of the redevelopment authority. Place that into the future projects category for economic development. For this particular project.
We need the old city
I
development.
remember the old city development, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion to amend? Hearing seeing none, Mrs. Franklin, motion to amend.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Matthews.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy. Yes. Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Mr. Yoder,
Yes, motion passes 7-0. From the city development project back to recreation future projects reserve.
Sorry.
I'll make a motion that we move $265,000 from the old city development project back into the future project reserve category for recreation. Motion is second. Any comments or questions on the motion to amend? Here you see none, Mrs. Franklin, motion.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Matthews,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes, motion to amend passes 7-0. Cover it unless anybody else has any comments, questions, or other ideas on any changes for anything else. Here you see no more comments. This is Franklin, the main motion.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Matthews,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes,
Mr. Yoder,
Yes, the motion passes 7-0. Let's move, I actually think there might be a couple people here from for item 10. So we'll move up down to item 10. Just trying to read that.
resolution authorizing the purchase of street trees from Montgomery initially.
Is there a motion and a second? So moved. Second, motion and a second, Mayor Slaughter, welcome back up.
Yes, good evening again, Council President Yoder, Vice President Katz, and members of council and administration. If you have before you this resolution authorizing the purchase of 42 street trees for the Newberry section of Williamsport along West 4th Street. We have been talking about this for what feels like forever, the last few years, and this is related to the trees that were removed during as PennDOT was starting to do some work and then stopped. And right now, they're not scheduled to return until 2028. We've had a number of meetings, administration, members of council, folks from Newberry, related to the replacement of these trees. And since it is not until 2028, and it currently looks
presented as an airstrip. We did feel it was prudent to replace the trees here in the interim. I know we did discuss it during ARPA discussions as well throughout that time. And so these would be 42 trees, 21 of each kind of their root. We did get permission from PennDOT to use this is in the PennDOT right away to replace these trees, so long as they were appropriate site. Chad, the city forester, has reviewed these and reviewed the area, and this is the recommendation that's made for these trees. And so this is what you have before you, and it was reviewed and public works.
Mayor Slaughter, this was reviewed in Public Works, Mr. Allison. Oh, okay, perfect. Bonnie, sorry. Public Works?
Are you talking to me?
Yep.
I didn't hear what you said. I'm telling you, I told Chris I'm not hearing there's not enough sound tonight. This didn't come to us at all.
The trees.
Yeah, this is the resolution for the trees line.
Oh, for the trees. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no
I
worries. We jumped
thought it was
around.
something else. Okay. All right. Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening, Councilman.
I cannot wait till I'm back in person again. First of all, I found out, when we had the discussion about the company that's doing the trees, did not realize that we were using this company for a long time out of New York, that they supply the city with a lot of our trees because they have such a large selection and a selection that is usable trees, and that may be not the right terminology. It's about time we're going to be doing this. It's a shame that we did lose the free gratis from Dincher and Dincher, but they were not happy with the fact that PennDOT would not guarantee that they would not leave those trees alone in 6 years. And 6 years is when PennDOT said they're going to go back to repairing 4th Street again. So therefore we lost that free gratis, which is a shame because this is a company who has worked with the city tremendously, but I can also see it's a small company. They're not huge. And to put trees in that would only be there for 6 years is kind of disheartening. We don't know if this is going to happen again with using the $5,000 from ARPA to put the trees in. But we can't have Newbury looking like it's looking without any trees on the street. Trees, as we well know, is good for the environment in so many different ways. And especially in the heat of the summer, we need the trees for cooling. And it's just it helps keep the pollution down. So we do need the trees on 4th Street. As everybody knows, it's a well-traveled street. We do know that letters and communication has been done with a lot of the citizens that are on 4th Street to accept the trees. It's 42 trees that will be used. I'm sorry, but I don't remember the names of the trees. I did not write those names down because I wouldn't even know how to spell the names. But it's two varieties that we're using. And I don't know if the mayor, do you know what the name of the trees are?
Yes, they are hackberry and musashino, so zelkova, if I pronounced that correct. Those are the two types.
You did better than I did.
I know.
They're both root trees.
But once this is approved, they can start planting these trees in November, and the citizens will, when the trees are planted in front of a home, the citizens that said yes to it will take care of the trees, which hopefully will make Newbury look like it was before a little bit anyhow, at least for the next 6 years. Like I said, there's no guarantee how long this is going to last. PennDOT will not give any information as far as are they going through with their project in 2028. We don't know, but at least we'll have trees in Newbury up until that point. And that's the gist of it. Vince, were you there at the meeting?
Yes, I was, Bonnie.
And Randy, is there any questions? I can't remember if there's anything else.
I think you covered it pretty good, Bonnie.
Okay,
I'll just add one additional, Councilwoman Neely asked about additional trees, and we have previously purchased 24 from other spots throughout the city.
Time for the revitalize, resolution stuff, like, revitalize is back, and there's some new form of the street tree grant out there at the state level. As in that, so, can you hear me now?
The tree bylaws, yeah, is that? Yeah.
Okay, so revitalize is back this year for next year planning. Okay, great. Which is, we have for years planted about 50 to 75 street trees a year, and the city utilized the revitalize tree money from the state, and then that grant funding is right up years ago. It's back, which is excellent. So that'll bring us up to speed on street trees again, hopefully. So we get it.
Thank you. Just one. So it was a great gesture that nature was willing to donate trees until they found out that, in 6 years the trees could be ripped out. So then we moved on to purchase trees. I'm just curious, Mayor, or maybe Mr. Livermore, did we look into just purchasing those trees from nature that they were going to donate, rather than looking at a nursery all the way to New York?
The reason for purchase that shingles we use from New York, it's a bare root tree. So it's a lot cheaper to get those from up there. A lot of the trees we can get around here is root ball, and the price would be astronomical to put them in. And if we even have room between the curb and sidewalk, you can do so right now.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this, although I talked to my mom that a lot of the landscape management interactions with vegetables, so that's a source of trees. They're kind of like a larger vendor of trees that like for the Northeast. And then we've gotten really excellent trees from them over the last decade or so. They're very good quality. Even though they're very the survival rate is that's very true. Can be a little dicier. Can I ask a couple of questions? All right. Scott, I just want to make sure, generally speaking, when we plant street trees, at least when we've done the tree vitalize grant, we've begged them that we're planning to water them for a while after we kind of care for the trees.
Typically in the fall, they're in a dormant stage. Right. So, these will go in, and obviously if they're approved, they will go in around the 1st or 2nd week of November. So I think the care for these trees are very minimal to the fall season. And yeah, I have Chad has said that he has gone out to get these trees a jump start if you need to. Answer occasions.
I just want to make sure. I mean, just to be clear, and I see Robert Crossing back there in the chiefs, I guess. In the long run, these trees are the property of the property owners along West 4th Street, and have the responsibility consequently also of those property owners along West 4th Street. However,
No, they aren't.
if we are,
Read your city ordinance. No, they aren't. The city owns the trees. They're the responsibility of the property owner, but the city owns the trees. And the property owner cannot do anything to that tree unless they have permission from the city.
right. So it's a kind of a shared, right?
It's in between the curb and sidewalk. It is city right away. Right. The homeowner owns the trees, but they have to, if they want to, if it needs cut down, it has to be approved by our forester. Right.
But anyway, all of that up to one side, I think it's still wisest if we're paying for through the spring, we're making sure the trees are in good shape for things actually for next year. Planning in the fall, I think, should help ensure that The one other thing that I wanted to say is that, part of protecting these trees and other street trees in the city moving forward, from all sorts of things, but including PennDOT, is working to adapt our street tree limits with the next 6 years to provide stronger protections for street trees. Because if we can do that, then hopefully those restrictions apply to PennDOT, but certainly they apply when other street work is done in the city and sidewalk work is done in the city, such that we have to cover the roots, make certain that the trees very well when we do work. So that is something that we and the administration should be working together to correct in the next couple of years, so that we have a more robust street tree ordinance. I think Lewisburg, for instance, has one that we can probably just almost cut and paste, that we give our street trees much better protection. And we help protect these trees when forest trees eventually is destroyed.
Any other comments or questions? Ms. Mealy, I would second that. I mean, we need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And if it does happen again, we need to, I think, we gotta come up with something. I mean, we've been working with PennDOT pretty intimately for the past couple of years. And, you know, I think, I hope that we've got a good enough relationship where we can have a frank conversation about how negatively this impacts the community when this happens. And I'm sure that it's not just happening here, it's happening other places. There's a good educational opportunity here that hopefully we can help PennDOT understand, and hopefully help other communities in the area maybe avoid this situation in the future. So whoever's here in 6 years, whether it's some of us, whether it's some current members of the administration, whatever, this whole thing's on record. Let's hope that it's captured and we can mitigate this in 6 years. I hate to be sitting here at 7 years or 8 years and it's happening again. Mr. Allison.
This whole issue goes back several years, and some of us were on 5 years.
Or more.
Or, yeah, at least, we had a lot of meetings with PennDOT in different venues with citizens, as well as council people, and seemed to come to understanding at different times that there was a workable solution, but things changed in between meetings, and we kept going back to pretty much square one. When you're dealing with the state road, you don't have a lot of leverage. So at least that approach doesn't work. So we need to really think about it and figure out a different way to approach that. That's just my take.
Certainly, leadership, at least in our local district. You know, and there's a gubernatorial election coming up, so there's going to be somebody else at the helm of the executive in the state, regardless of which way it is. You know, there's hopefully that between both of those positions, and maybe there's a little bit of open. But we'll take them on. Any other comments or questions? Hearing seen none, Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mr. Ryder.
Yes.
Ms. Mealy.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes,
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. We'll jump back up to item 7, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution for the approval of settlement of Kohl's department stores and tax assessment appeal.
Is there a motion, a second?
So moved. Second.
Motion, a second. Mr. Lubin.
Mrs. Yoder, Vice President, Tax and Council. This is just another settlement of a tax appeal. It's recommended by our tax assessment office. This is the best we can do. I'm not sure about the other ones. I think this might be the last one. So, notice that originally, the tip that went out there, was arguments mentioned in this.
Thank you, Mr. Lumen. Are there any comments or questions? Council.
I won't go on my reassessment soapbox again. I did see an article in the paper that it does look like the commissioners are at least looking at it, which is hopeful. I would encourage every member of the council, I would encourage the mayor to do some outreach to all three of them and applaud them for at least looking at it, but encourage them to actually go through it. It's been a long time coming and it will help us a lot. It'll help, I think, other municipalities within the county, but it will help us a lot. So I would encourage everybody to do that. They do great. Yeah. Yeah, they do great, but the more they hear from us, I think the better. So that's what we.
I think the treasurer, tax collectors would appreciate it.
I would agree.
Also that if the assessments go up because of the assessment, you have to reduce the village. Right? It's supposed to try to keep it neutral. Can't go up to 10%.
Any other comments or questions? Ms. Wheeler?
I mean, with that, because I think it's sometimes you report out every time you have to take the assessment. The assessment is not a revenue raising tool for communities. It's in people as a communities and make certain that people are paying their fair share. And in some cases, the estate value is reducing, in some cases, increase. But it does not increase the tax income to the state. I just feel like I don't want to feel like that is not.
That's what was done in 2004. And the city at that time reduced it.
I get the same thing all the time as well. It's not, I mean, it took me a little bit to truly understand it as well. I mean, it's not a just black and white straightforward concept by any means, but to your point, Ms. Miller, you're absolutely right. This is not a revenue generating process. This is a equalizing process. So
I just try to make sure that we point that out every time we discuss it. Because I don't think we can underline enough the extent to which open requests that the county do a reassessment on property values. It is not us trying to make money, it is us trying to be fair to our citizens.
absolutely. Any other comments or questions? Hearing seen none, Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Bassett.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mr. Ryder.
Yes.
Ms. Wheeler.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Item 9, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution awarding professional services for levy testing to Geotechnology Associates.
Is there a motion and a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Good evening, Mr. Sanders.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everybody. What you have before you is a resolution to hire GTA to test our levy relief wells. Every 5 years, we're required to test our relief wells. We are at the mark. Put this out to the world and got 5 proposals back, ranging from $2,000 to $8,000. GTA's contract would be for $158,000. They did this work for us back in 2015, 2016. So we're familiar with our system. UHY has blessed us for all of our compliance. Just a general lesson of the site. There was a question from Mr. Allison. Tuesday, in Public Works, there are 3 or 4 relief wells in our system that are in Textron plume, that's the contaminated soil. I reached out to some other individuals that get back in time, but when the time comes next year to extend this work, I will make sure that we look at the office to solid.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. This was reviewed in Public Works. Bonnie?
Yes, it was. It was reviewed Public Works. Hi, John, how are you doing tonight?
Good, how you doing?
Okay, this is something that has to be done every 5 years. And correct me if I'm wrong, John, but didn't you say there's 25 wells that have to be inspected at this point?
So all of them need to be inspected.
All of them, but
All of them need to be inspected.
what did you say, 25?
All of the 102 need to be inspected, water drawn from them, and then measure the rate of water and back into the well to make sure the well is still actually is designed. The 25 or 26 wells, yeah, the contract is to remove sediment that accumulates in the well, stem cell over time.
And this is to take all the sediment out. By any chance, do they weigh the sediment that they take out?
I don't know the answer, I'm sorry.
The only reason I ask that because when we clean the streets and things like that, we do weigh that for our MS4 program and for our credits. So that wouldn't have anything to do with that at all. I meant to ask you that during the committee meeting.
I don't believe so, this would be subsurface, but you are correct in regards to.
Okay, and this will also take up to 1 to 2 months to get done. And like I said, this is done every 5 years. I don't have anything else to add.
Thank you, Mrs. Katz. Are there any comments or questions from other members of Public Works or Council? Mr. Woolsey.
Thank you. During Public Works, Mr. Chandler, when we went over these services, I think I pointed out bullet point 2 under task 1, sediment removed from wells shall can't be discharged directly to ground surface remaining at or adjacent. Will they be passing through some sort of a sediment barrier? Will they be placed in containment?
That's why I asked that to tomorrow, let me know, it's gonna get back to your time, so. We're going to follow the environmental North Central region to solidify that when the time comes.
Okay. Thank you. That's the only question I had.
Any other comments or questions from members of council? Okay. We see none. Mrs. Franklin, motion, please.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Matthews.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mr. Biden.
Yes.
Ms. Neely.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes,
Mr. Wood.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. I think we covered everything. Item 11, except for filing, we have the Finance Committee meeting minutes from August 22nd, the Public Safety Committee meeting minutes from April 26th, Public Works meeting minutes from May 24th, and the Water Authority and Sanitary Authority minutes from July 27th, all 2022. Is there a motion and a second to accept for filing? So moved. Right, motion and a second. Any comments, questions, or revisions to the minutes? We've seen none. Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Matthews.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mr. Biden.
Yes.
Ms. Neely.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Item 12, announcements. Our next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be held on Thursday, September 29th, 7 p.m. right here in Great Transit 234. Upcoming meetings, Tuesday, September 20th at 6:30 p.m. is our Historic Architectural Review Board. Wednesday, September 21st at 10 a.m. is Blighted Property. Tuesday, September 27th, 1 p.m. is Finance Committee meeting, 2:30 p.m. Public Works. Wednesday, September 28th, 9 a.m. is Economic Revitalization Committee, 11:30 a.m. Public Safety, and also at 11:30 a.m. is the Redevelopment Authority meeting. Thursday, September 29th, 7 p.m. is our City Council meeting. Are there any comments or other items from other members of council? Ms. Wheelan.
Just one quick question for Mr. Little, actually, if you don't mind. It took me like 2 hours to start getting phone calls about the removal of the trees in Willie's garden today. Very angry phone calls. I just want to make sure, what are our intentions in terms of replanting trees there after the sidewalk is installed? What's our timeline?
They're part of the 24 that we were previously.
Okay, so they will be in November
Yes.
and installed,
Yes.
and it will be standard barrier reducing schedules. And we will be providing the same care for them that we're providing for the kids in Newberry, so that.
Yeah.
Right. And then because they are our property, we will continue to provide care for those. Correct?
And take them down to the northern Texas options.
Yeah, no, I know what I explained about the oil, and I have to point, he's seen a lot of previous districts, but, just wanted to make sure that the bonuses that I did were in fact accurate. All right, excellent, thank you.
Any other comments from members of council? Mr. Woolsey? I just had one thing I wanted to say, and that was, recently this past weekend, we had the Williamsport Wellness Program, the interdepartmental softball tournament. Extend a big thank you to Molly and Scott for organizing it, putting all the time and effort into putting it together. It was a great thing. And also to thank all the members of the fire department, Chief Owens, the police department, Snyder, Chief Bowles, and all the members of our TA and other members of the city that participated. I think it was a great event. And I certainly had a great time. I look forward to come. Just also to let everyone know that the RBTA is the championship.
Well said, that's all well said. Well said. That's good to see. Any other comments from members of council? Any comments from the administration? Yeah. We got one. Mr. Sanders.
Yes, in conversation with the board engineer today, they're looking to bid out the second worst cost for construction package in about 2 months. So trying to put that out there for a while. Finally, some construction on the levy on the
Appreciate that. That's good to hear and see. There's water.
There's just one brief one also, that Lowe's part groundbreaking, DC grant that we received previously, will take place on Tuesday, September 27th.
Yes, sir.
27th? Yeah. And we'll be forwarded at 11 o'clock, so we'll forward that, formal invitation all over this week.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. And it's also good to see. Any other comments from the administration? Any comments from members of the public? Any comments from the news media? Jeremy, okay back there? Yeah. I'll take a motion for adjournment. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, everyone. Meeting is adjourned.